When we're doing a model workshop, this is basically the agenda or the key areas of design that we use to create extraordinary quality and profits. Okay, and what's the first thing? People development. Now, we've been doing these workshops for a long time, hundreds of organizations, and this has evolved. Back in the old days, and I always feel a little sorry for hospices that did the workshop years ago, and they probably we need to do a tune-up. But people development is like number 8. You know, we had taken the full bottle of stupid pills, and then it dawned us, geez, you know, if we want great quality and profits, it's going to come out of our people development system. So that we move that to the top, and we will spend more time, and you will spend more time and energy on people development and your people development systems than any other thing that you could do in your business or in your organization. So people development, numero uno, number 1. Next, we go down to visit design. One of the major places where our promise meets the world. And so we go through the different structural elements of that. And let me just say this. We're not making robots when we're doing this. Only 30% of our design work is prescriptive. The remaining 70% is based on the clinician's professional judgment. And that's a very important distinction. We're not making robots. We're not even using scripts. But what's that structure look like? Which is a major part, or really a subcomponent of your people development. We always roll it out in this sequence, because this is a sequence that works. Next, we go into phone interaction. How do you answer the phones? What are the structures? Behind that, it's another place, again, it's actually so important because that phone call sets the entire tone of the experience. And you blow it there, you will spend so much energy trying to overcome that. And in a world where it's done so horribly by so many organizations, it's one place where you can put relatively little energy or resources and get a great return in making that feeling really special. Okay, so our phone interactions, that's the third thing. Our product design. In the MBI world, product design is the design of the physical products that we use in conjunction with our work to increase quality and predictability. Things we touch. There are laptops, there are bags, there are bag mats. Okay, all these things are considered our hospice menus that we'll talk about. Then we go into, after this, we get into the financial domain, which starts out with team design. And of course, with all these things, we provide the templates to help people through these things. So you don't have to start from scratch. You can just say, hey, Andrew, I like what you've done here. Don't like what you've done here so much. But you make your own proprietary system. But with team design, we use the model teaching tool, and that's where we determine what disciplines that we will use in our teams, because they're not all just the classic hospice disciplines. It's not just nurses, social workers, chaplains, in all the different disciplines known. There are other things that can be brought in. And then, what is the perfect, or at least, your standard staffing module? Or model, I should say. So if you have 100 patients, how many nurses would you have if you have 100 patients? How many social workers? How many CNAs? How many spiritual care coordinators? And down the line, that gives you a system to staff by. Then 6 is our patient-related design. This is basically our DME, medications, medical supplies, all those really things that we call ancillary in more acute settings. Okay, 7, supporting services design. This is basically all of us that support the front lines of care. This is IT, HR, administration, finance, that are behind here to make sure that feeling or experience happens for every patient, every time, this world of non-exception. What are the costs associated with that? This is always a little bit of a relief for clinicians because, we start out and we're talking about them and all the managers, productivity needs to be this, needs to increase. And then the mirror comes back and it's, oh my God, they're talking about me now. And, I can't give up anymore. I can't do it for any less, or I need more, or whatever. And you get attitudes and things like that. 8, compensation. Perhaps the most powerful tool that an organization can use to shape culture. We'll talk about that at some level in the workshop. It's nothing like the 2-day, or I should say, day and a half workshop that's all we talk about. But it's an area that people fear. Why? Because it's linked to the survival instinct. Everyone wants to know that they have enough nuts to pay their bills and take care of their kids and everything. So that's a sensitive subject. However, none of your organizations that are operating in the 90th percentile pay salary and hourly. Pretty much that's the way they do it. They have creative ways of doing it. 100% of them that live in the extremities do. So that has to be discussed. Some pay more, some pay less. You could pay less. You could create such a smoking hot atmosphere that people would work for free. We've seen it done. But it takes quite a leader or group of leaders in order to pull that off. Okay, 9, outreach and marketing. How will people know and come to understand your proprietary system where things do not fall through the cracks? It was one of the most surprising things about the model is that we have a lot of organizations that have increased their census by 100, even 500% in relatively short periods of time, like a year, because they learned to market what? The model, which is really your people systems. When the public and referral sources and community find out that you are extraordinarily good. In fact, the core competence of your organization is that of people development. Do you not think that they are going to refer to you? When they come into your people spaces and see your faculty and the way that you develop people, and they just go, wow, I had no idea that you could develop people like this, where it does happen 100% of the time. That's amazing. Can you help us? Can you help our nursing home? Can you help our health system? Why would we ever want to contract with someone else? And thus, marketing and outreach actually changes its focus to being a little bit more of business consultants when people get a taste of how you've learned how to develop people. Okay, last thing, revolutionary bereavement design. So when we're talking about hospice here, the public assumes that we are experts at this. And we're using all the latest modalities and technologies to help people resolve grief. But are we? Most hospices aren't. They're using outdated cognitive approaches. Let's think about this. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it some more. Let's talk about it some more. When there's things, technologies, and modalities that can accomplish more in 45 minutes than in 30 years of counseling, and most hospices are not using them. But we'll talk about that. So there's basically the key areas that we'll talk about when we're talking about the model. Three common misconceptions about the model are that the model is all about money. It is not all about money. Again, MVI comes from a financial place. That's where our start was. But it's so not about just the money. Okay? That the model is an attempt to make all hospices look the same. It is not. Every hospice that does the model will create their own proprietary system and will make it meet the needs of their respective communities. So it is not a cookie-cutter approach. And this last one, this is a mistake that CEOs often make. The model is something that can be done or implemented by the CFO. Unless your CFO is an expert nurse, social worker, CNA, and spiritual care person, and volunteer coordinator, let's throw that in there, and bereavement specialist, they can't do it. Because the model, it's much more clinical in nature, at least, I mean, it's not just making things pencil out. It's about what we actually do in our business of hospice or in our healthcare system or company. So those are 3 common misconceptions. How deep is your model? Okay, here's an old flash page that we put out years ago, but let's go through this. That was from June 2012. But here's some questions that will kind of get the juices going about what this is about. How confident are your staff members in your hospice's promises or brand? Does everyone, clinical as well as support staff, understand the basic structure of the visit? Why would it be important for an AP clerk to understand how we do a visit? Okay, well, it should be obvious. If that AP clerk understands that this is the reason that things don't fall through the cracks at our hospice, or one of the things, they're going to answer the phone more confidently. That's energetic response is going to come across. Even if they're not answering or talking specifically about the visit, they know how it's done here, and it increases what? Their level of confidence, which is a feeling. And that's transmitted out to really everybody that they meet. And you do want to build a sense of organizational pride. Even though I down pride from a kind of a spiritual place, there is a good type of pride. And that's, pride in our organization and all that, but not a pride that I'll say comes from a place of arrogance or haughtiness. Okay. Does everyone, clinical as well as support staff, understand the basic structure of phone interactions? Does everybody know how to answer the phone? Have they been trained? How many hours have they been given of phone interaction work? How have you verified that they got it? Have you tested? Okay? Have model cards with your hospice's different NPR percentages, all your standards, have they been distributed to all staff members? I mean, have you removed the excuse? I didn't know that. Does your hospice still use budgets or even the term? Someone that's really doing the model, that's a no-no word. Are the portals open to capture the very best ideas as they are constantly being incorporated into your system of care? Does everyone at your hospice see themselves as a teacher? Okay, what are we? We are feeling first, and then the first overlay that we would see ourselves when we're doing the model is that of a teacher, because we're a teaching organization first and foremost. Does your hospice have training curricula for all staff, leadership, and the board of directors? When a person enters your training space, does it feel sacred? Does it feel like special space? Or is it just another room? I'll just say this, if it doesn't blow you over with quality, you got work to do. Does your hospice, at minimum, annually test on visit and phone interactions, as well as standards? Is your hospice achieving a 14% profit margin with its hospice home care operations and is building towards a 6 to 9 months reserve of cash or near cash? Does your hospice use a hospice menu and truly recognize the value of physical products to increase predictability and quality? Does your hospice use creative compensation approaches to foster behaviors that enhance quality and financial performance? These are just some questions really to probe and to get us thinking about how much of a system do we really have?